Okay. Hello? Well, now I'm gonna feel bad. Ah! Ah! I no longer feel bad. No longer feel bad. No.
Horrified looks from everyone in the room.
Autopilot. Autopilot, there's a moon, there's a sun there. There's a sun there. Stop it! Oh, fuck. Autopilot just fucking killed me.
Shelby, hit examine.
Alright.
All players must agree to enter this realm.
I hate guess. Oh, look, it's a voting system.
And my game crashed.
Christopher, that is not funny.
My game crashed.
Well, Shelby, you ready for this?
No!
My
We're
game
not moving.
Come on.
This is a throwback to fucking Warframe.
Come on, buddy. Come on, Shelby. We got this. Man, give me some bolts, too, because, you know.
Goddamn, what am I, you damn pimp daddy?
You give me a crossbow with no ammo, how am I supposed to use it?
Beat him with it.
Excellent.
Now it's gonna make me dizzy. Oh shit.
Ow. Don't worry. I'm a master. Ow. I got this. Don't worry about it.
What's wrong, brother? You have a performance issues?
Nick!
Told you, I had it.
Uh-huh.
Well, damn, all the homies and everybody's here today. Well, hello. Good morning. It's not morning anymore, but like, you know, fuck it. It's close enough, I guess. But yeah, I hope everybody's having a good day. Boots, you better have a good day at work, or I'll come and punch you in the face or something. I don't know. But yeah, I'm trying to fix something. I just made it worse. Didn't I? There we go. There we go. No worries. You know what? It's only noon here, so fair. Gotta find you? I'll just punch you through the screen. It's fine. Got a milkshake? Because your girl is on the upset of hormones and I'm dying. Also, I have a new stream guest. My Mothman. What's it called? Like little cape thing. So, oh wait, there we go. Cool. Anyway, we're playing yeah, Mothman. Hell yeah. No worries, babe. Have a good day. See you later. We're playing modded not Minecraft. What are we playing? Terraria. Modded Terraria. I have not played in a hot minute, and y'all know I kind of love Terraria. I die often, but it's okay. And I'm also, like, it's not cold here, because it's, like, it's 71 degrees, but at the same time, it's, like, really fucking annoying, because it's humid as shit, because it keeps, it keeps raining, so it's humid as fuck. You also can see my, air heater thing, so it's cold, but not at the same time. Does that make any sense? It's annoying. But yeah, we're gonna load in. Move you down just a little bit. Yeah, we got ad break coming. You know what? We're gonna snooze the first one. We're gonna snooze it for about 5 minutes. I made a large classic world. I have not loaded in yet. I did random. And we have mods. Why does it look so good? Oh my god. I thought I got rid of that. Hang on. Hold on. Damn. I have to remember how to... Damn! I have to remember how to use this fucking thing. I wanted to see... What mods do I have? I did Calamity, the quality overhaul. I thought I turned off... Because people were saying that thorium and... You know what? We're just going to figure it out. I'm actually going to turn that off. Because... The Heroes mod... Can't remember what it does. Honestly, I don't remember what half this shit does. So... We're just going to kind of figure it out. As we let this load real quick. Eventually. Yeah, I got a, what is this? Get off. Take off! Got a cookout milkshake. Because your girl struggling today. But it's okay. I was gonna play Journey, but I thought I got rid of this. We're just gonna leave that down there. I don't want this pop up. I don't know how to do that. Okay, whatever. Oh, we got a starter bag. Yeah, I was very whiny about it. I'm not even gonna... Woo! I'm not even gonna lie to y'all about it. Tombs of the Dragon Star. My eyes live to see an ancient dust dancing from high ledges. Can be shimmered into. I don't know any about all that, but we're gonna put that on. Throwing brick. Oh, I love that. Sure, we're just gonna put shit on. How to get 2 whales in a car, start in England and drive west. Get it? It looks so pretty. That's a little distracting though, not gonna lie. This needs to... How do I... Oh. Yeah, we're just gonna turn that off, because... I almost have forgotten how to play this game. I'm not even gonna lie to you. This one... Why are there bells? The rain flight. Hey, Kish! How you doing? Yeah, I definitely... Like, look, when your girl wants a milkshake, your girl wants a milkshake. And I wanted a milkshake. So... Ain't nothing wrong with that, Christopher. This is my... Spoil myself day. I got me a biscuit and I got me a milkshake. And I'm happy. And we are going to stay happy. I got some stone. I got some more iron. Okay, so we got iron instead of... What's the other one? I can't remember. Hell yeah. I about called that Squirtle, Jesus. I was talking about how I have been in a mood and I got me a cookout milkshake because they're the best. That's some good soup. Wet and milk. Yeah, I had to stand out in the rain because our truck, the driver's side window doesn't work. What is that? Stat panel. Oh, I don't know about that. Where did he go? Who the fuck are you? Oh, show, but my creator had forgotten to install my my self-defense chip. I have been upgraded and now ready for combat. Coolio. Oh, there's the guide. Okay, we're gonna... Should we do an underground base or a regular base? We'll do a little bit of both. All milkshakes are good though. Except, I will say, I've had a thing that is called a... What was it? What did me and Cat go through? It was a pudding shake, and that shit was nasty as fuck. I ain't gonna lie to you. I did not... You an enemy? I can't remember. Yeah, you are. Shit. Get out there. Thank you, guide. You're so sweet. Forgot how to play. Oh yeah, workbench. Like a U. Oh yeah, I can summon shit. Oh. Definitely not a summon. Oh my god. Kish! What did you do? Oh my god. Fucking crazy butt. Damn it, Kish! Thank you! Thank you for the donation. It needs to say how much you did. That scared the shit out of me. I'm not even gonna lie. Won't even lie. That scared me. Umbrella Tech. You're stupid. Yeah, I do need a. Oh, look at the balloon! Look how cute that is. Thank you, Kish. Got me all flustered now. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I need a table. And I need a chair. And then I need 2 doors. And then I need... I already have... I about called him a flashlight. Jesus Christ. Need lots of walls. That. And then... fucking... That's gonna have me get the giggles for the rest of the day. I hope you're aware. Oh, that's the one! Okay, here we go. Squirrel! Okay. Oh, you guys are already gone. Okay, it's fine. Fine. Damn. Got the burps. People. That one. Oh, the door. Am I really not? Okay. Yes. No, I literally have to break it and then replace it. Then go over here. We'll give the guide a house first because, I mean, he's the guide. And we're gonna have to sacrifice him later anyway, so. What? Shut up. You. Okay. Oh, I didn't even realize I had the map up. Wait. I don't even need that. Do need you. Nope. Where's the wall? I made walls. Oh, they're right there on zero. I knew that. Definitely knew that. Definitely not. I wish I could play shit that quick. Damn. Alright, alright. And then this, and now this should be considered a house. Correct? Correct? Yep, okay, cool. Dinkelberg, who the fuck? Our guide is named Dinkelberg? I love that. Oh my god, that's so stupid. Dinkelberg the guide. Hi, welcome back. I'm very sorry. I wish we didn't have to do them, but if it means that new people... Yeah, right? If it means that people don't have to listen to 5, 7, 12 fucking ads when they come in, we'll take it, you know? Super fucking irritating that it's that way, but... Wait, what? Oh, damn. I made the wrong one. Oops. Alright. I'm gonna make a sub... Oh, I want to make the robot a room, right? What are you mad at me for? Bitch, I'll fucking eat you. And then I will not feel bad about damn sacrificing you. Shit. Dinkelberg. Alright, let's see if I can't. I'm gonna make some more walls. Actually. Oh, legit, as a streamer pay for my channel and I have ads, you could imagine. Yeah! Like, if it was like $10 a month, fuck yeah, I would never have ads ever again. And I would make it to where people wouldn't have to fucking add ads. Add ads? Watch ads. Because it's like, nothing turns me off of a stream quicker than having to go through 7 ads. Especially if I've never seen their stuff before. Now, if it's somebody I'm like, oh, I haven't had a chance to catch them live. Then I'm like, yeah, okay, you know, whatever. But, like, come on. Because it's not the streamer's fault. Don't think that I'm trying to say it's that. Like, I get it. I'm in the... I know. But at the same time, it's like, bro, fucking eating ass. Let's see what we're gonna... Yeah. I love this, that you can replace. You don't have to, like, necessarily... you don't have to tear it down. Let's make another... a door. Make a door. Because I want the robot to have a room before the night comes. Even though I don't really know him like that, but like, pop off. That might be too small to be a house. Ah, I need more wood! I am hurrying, robot. Yes. Yeah, stop judging me. Am I? Oh, there we go. Table. Ooh, look at that robot. Look at him go. Look at him go. He's just the best little robot. Okay, is that big enough? I don't think it is. Missing a wall? We have plenty of walls. Sorry. I'm so sorry, doggo. It's me, not you. Unless you can make me a wall too. Okay, is that enough room? Enough room? Story of my fucking life. How are you missing a fucking wall? I'm actually gonna crash out. Because all of these have... Maybe it's not big enough. No, let's make it bigger. Stop coughing, Chris. What about now? Bitch, what the fuck do you mean? Oh my god. Oh! I'm stupid! Panicking. This one? Shit. How do I... This is the wall they're talking about. But it has a wall. I figured it out, y'all. Figured it out. I'm so sorry, I'm coming. Oh, I didn't mean to make stone. What do I get for panicking? Damn, I wasted that. I knew I was gonna do that shit too. Damn. Come on. Let's get it. Get it. Get it. Ow. Ow. I feel like the calming music though. Sweet. I'm sorry, I'm coming. Sorry. I'm such a bad friend. Got the robot. We got him a house. This outing is soon. Is that Yay! Hi. Would you like this unit to teach you something? Wait. Okay. All y'all. My butt. Okay, let's. That's a pink moon. That's cute. Where'd my Quirrell go? Okay, we need to actually go put this stuff up because I would really hate for that. Oh, he was already here. Does he not follow me? Whatever. Let's actually just continue this base. Why was that so... That scared me. Can I jump that high? Yes, I can. Choodle? What the fuck's a choodle? That's how I know I'm getting out of sync with Pokemon. I'm like, what? Is that the little turtle thing? I think it's a little turtle. Look at that little squirrel go. He just obliterating things. Oh, look at you, zombie. You think you can get me? Yes, you do. Alright. Oh. Oh. Hey, 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 hey. Homie. Let's not fucking do that, yeah? Big no-no. That's what I was thinking. My character really heard me talking shit and was like, oh, bet? Let's help. Hey, homie? Shut the fuck up, I'm so fucking scared right now. And I love this. Where is it? Quick stack to nearby chests. Love that. I don't know what, like, anyway. And then we will keep, Alright. Let's increase our mana. And then we should make a gate to hell, right? Y'all think so? I like making gates to hell. Oh, I fucked up. Oh, I fucked up. 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 He'll never trust me again. Dingleberg, I'm sorry. Oh. Why do I have so many trash cans? Yes, every happy home needs a gate to hell. We can just keep digging down and then just go from there. These two. Let's actually, before we start making, making our way downtown. Oh, let me. Wood platforms. I kind of hate the bells. I keep hearing those bells and they're getting on my nerves. There we go. I like our original music. No! Mm-mm. Then we are gonna back out real quick. Did I add that? Ew, why did I do that? Hey! Really? Hang on a second. Let me see if I can. How to turn off Calamity mod music. Okay, so it's another mod? Hang on. Because I don't know what has music. This one? Wouldn't know if I did. Oh, excuse me. Haha, you know what we could do? You know what we actually could fucking do? Hang on. So I'm gonna purple it. Alright. Let me... You ready? You ready? We're gonna do Big Brain. I'm gonna cheat. Okay. Y'all go away. Go away. Go away. Go away. Go away. Okay. Shit. Damn, I keep fucking up. I literally just have... I literally just have a playlist going now. Let's see. Let's make... How'd I make rope? Because I think that's what I want to make first. Shit ton of rope, but I can't remember how. Is it the vines? Hey, Fiery! How you doing? Me too. Alright, oh, shit. Oh, you need to fuck off. Hey, hey, get fucked. Yeah, I haven't seen you in a hot minute. Get fucked, get fucked, get fucked. Get fucked. Also, this world is large. It is the MK. The one and only. Oh. Oh, hello. Oh, oh. Got another demon eye. Can't get too close to me, bitch. It's so dark. I love the lighting in this. Hey, 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 get fucked. Take it off, take it off. Stop it, stop it, go away. Okay. What did we get? Ooh, climbing claws. Cloaked climbing claws? Well, bit slide down walls for blah, blah, blah. If joined with shoe spike. I like the shoe spike. Alright. Let's see. Ooh, what are you? I think I need that. Oh, it's the kappa. We needed the kappa. Hello? There we go. I love the smart cursor, where you can have like the cursor where it only goes to the point, or it'll go like around you. I've got to turn it off. Can you please duck? Duck goose. Here. Why did you plant 2? Good. No, let's... Yeah. Damn it. Oh damn, that's kind of long. Oh really? Got to love it. I am very thankful for the internet that I just realized I have a short sword too. A short sword as well. I got some healing pots. Hell yeah! Cause we have the fiber internet now, and I love it. Let me in! Let me in! Ooh. The finch staff! I love the finch. Oh. No. Auto resummon item set to oh, it's the loom. What is this again? I make all kinds of stuff. Alright, but we're just gonna leave that. I've been doing good. Life's interesting, but doing good so far. How has yours been? Oh look, it's another- oh, so this place is just like cool as fuck. Nice, we love it. We love it here! I still- how do I make rope again? I can't- I literally can't remember. Oh, there's another- I love this game. I literally play this for hours. I need... I just need like... oh. Is this it? So because I can't figure out... oh, really? Nice, MK. Because I can't get it. I can't get it, the regular music to play. So I literally have hours looped. Oh, nope, I need that. Put that in my moolah bank. How about just loot everything? Fuck it. So many things here. We love that. I love the little finch on my head. He's so fucking cute. Ah! Oh, baby. Hey, if it makes you feel better, I got fired from my job at 3 years, and then I had to drop out of school, so. Love that. Got another finch staff. Taboo. Fuck you. Here's to hoping that you get something soon, honey. 'Cause it fucking sucks. The job market's hard. Like, honest to God. Hold up to reach. Oh my God! Look! I need this in real life. Ignore me. God, I need an auto light or something. This is driving me insane. Oh, what are you? Is that a wood bird? Oh, that's a, is that a gnome? It's a gnome! Look at y'all smart beaches. Yeah, Whew. Can't see. When I close my eyes, I can't see. Honest to God. Let's just... I love that. That's so fucking funny. Y'all, I about died. I don't know why it's saying unable to make a request. I don't know what that's about. Always something. Traveling merchant! I have a potion. I have a recall potion. A recall potion. Hi! Hold on. Say something nice? Huh. Well, what can I say about Fairy? You have been coming to my stuff for years now, and you are a sweet cutie patootie, and I love you a lot. How about that? You're welcome. Kind of want that mole crate. Sounds kind of worth not worth coming out over here, but like, hey, you never know, dude. Oh god, now the Doomslayer is gonna come after me. Yeah, I kind of didn't believe Chris. Oh, what the fuck are you? Nah, bro, you can stay over there. I didn't believe that, but yeah, literally the Doomslayer was gonna leave go home. Came home, and the demons had killed his fucking pet bunny rabbit. And then he, like, went ham. Alright, we're gonna have death meter going. I need to have this. There we go. Right? It's paused? Okay. I need to add. What am I doing? How am I doing death counter? I forgot. I know I can do it with my stream deck, but I can't remember. I thought that said bold fart. Gotcha. I'll just make a tab. I'll just make a, Oh. Oh, no, not 10. Jeez. There's something wrong. Yep. Oh. Oh. Homie, are you good? Need. Aye. Acting stupid. Alright, guys. Ad break. Sorry. Alright. So let's not go back over to where the death is. Let's be big smart guys and girls about it. Yeah, I want to see. See, I think I can get material. There's a thing. Yeah, no worries. No worries. No worries. Excuse me. Cause we just chilling. Chilling like a villain. Some grape juice and gin. Oh, excuse me. What are you? Is that a flower that's an enemy? Angry dandelion? Okay. Yes. The fuck was that noise? Let me, actually, I'm gonna put that here. There we go. I remember how to play this game now. Dun, dun. Keep messing up. Okay, I've already been there. Oh, another one. This. Alright, Okay, so I've been here. Okay, cool. I get up. Oh! Look at the kind of jump I can do. Thank you, stepladder. Let's see what else is beyond. Wafflehorn hovercraft? No, come back. Yeah, for real. No, go get him. What are you? Finch, get him. You're unknown, therefore I wanna... Shit, where'd he go? Damn it. White paper airplane. Is that a... It's a fucking enemy. Why is everything running away from me? Is it because I want to kill you all? That can't be the reason, right? She's gonna eat me! Ooh. No. Yeah. Me? No. I am the goodest of good girls. I would never kill something that didn't deserve it. Definitely couldn't. We're not gonna talk about it, okay? I has issues. Never ever. I thought that said rabid squirrel and I was about to kill it. Thus, proving that I kind of am a murderer. A bit. I don't know. Come here. Come here. Get him. I don't know what the fuck those are. That's why I'm gonna. Oh, fuck you. Fuck you. No. No. Go away. Go away. I hate the fucking vultures. You were trying to get away from me earlier, now you want to come get. Wolfram metal scrap. Yeah, it really is, and I'm not gonna get it. Honest to God. Like, I love my Switch, don't get me wrong. I have played the fuck out of my Switch, but honestly, like, I have a PC that's so good now, I'm just... Ah! There we go! That's what I... Let's go! That's what we were looking for! I just want something that gives me auto placing or something. Shit. So many flowers. Oh, he's left. Okay, good. Because you didn't really have anything that I wanted. You have something I want. I think my hoodie's literally like getting in the way of it. I love my little fan. She's so cute. He needs a name. Like Barry. Betty DeFinch. We're just running at this point. We have glow sticks now? Yeah. What the fuck are you? Nope. We're just gonna ski-daddle. Y'all, what the fuck was that? The fuck is that? Digging turtles? Those are rickety mining contraption to dig out a small tunnel. I felt that. I felt that on an emotional level. I want... Oh, I need to grab... Fine. Okay, let's get some of this out. Because I think that's how I make... She really? There's no way she did. Alright, workbench. Get in your house, bitch! Get in your house, Dinkelberg! Stupid. Nighttime! Oh, damn. Oh, there we go. And then... let's go ahead and we will start. I heard the owl hooting and it kind of scared me. Let's see, what can we make? We can make more iron. Good, good. We can make more copper. Cool. And then, what the fuck is that? We love that. I don't have banners yet, so. For advanced crafting. So I make that. We're just gonna be making all the things. Alright. What do we have? Copper. So, 4, 9, 12. Y'all, am I really this dumb? The fucking music was wrong because I put on a goddamn thing and didn't notice it. That's... That is very me. Have we already been streaming for an hour? That's crazy. Yeah, I don't want that fucking thing. We're not gonna talk about it. We're not gonna fucking talk about it. I'm so irritated by that. Like, I knew I was dumb, but damn. Okay, we need to go get more iron. Iron! We need to go get more iron, guys. Alright. I'm so fucking annoyed. But it's my own stupidity. I should have known better. I knew it had to be something, but I didn't know what. Oh, I hear you. Oh yeah, I love Tinkaton. It's so cute. I think I have. Nay, I say nay! Well, thank you, MK. You would be the naysay. The naysayer. I saw something that I had a mod for excavation. Right. The hammer is made. Wait, hang on. Tinkaton hammer is made from corviknight, I believe, which is the big fucking bird. Hang on. Hang on. I'm trying to find the, What? Yeah. I'm trying to find the, core. Oh, damn, no. I'm trying to find. Oh. Corv. Yep, here we go. I'll show you. It's swinging samurai rockets in the sky, aiming to hit flying corviknight. Also steal anything it wants that takes back to a dwelling, blah blah blah. Blah blah blah. I think there should be more. Oh. I don't know where I heard that then. It had to be something. Yeah, you watched me play Pokemon. You should know who Corviknight is. Well, in case you don't know, Corviknight. Oh, I didn't mean to. I spelled it wrong, but it's this big buff motherfucker. Love them. Love them. They a little. Yeah. Alright, I don't know how. Or excavator. Terraria. I don't know how to use it. Vein miner. Oh, is it this one? Must be set controls first. Okay. My bad, my bad. Oh, wrong thing. I really fucking wish we still had Stream Raiders. That would have been fun to do. Controls. I know it's gonna be the mod. Now it's 4. Oh! Whatever. Alright, let's go. Oh, here we go. Yeah! I did not just sound like Peter Griffin. Shut up. Oh damn, I didn't mean to do it. Hey! My chat not working? Why is chat all the way down there? Damn. She gets on my nerves. There we go. I was like, hey, where'd my chat go? I'm also not used to having chat on screen. Or miner works. That makes my life so much easier and happier. Can you imagine if I let it do dirt? There's a game I want to look at. It's, oh damn, what is it called? I still want to do the one that you, sent me, MK. That Stifled. It's a horror game where you have to use echolocation to, like, reveal shit in the game. It's really fucking creepy. Yeah, I still want to try that. That is one way to clear a fucking room. Jesus. I only got 21 left. The fuck is that? I saw that. We're gonna go investigate. Oh, look at you. You're just so special. Yeah, my Finch is fucking it up. Ooh, fuck it up, Kenneth. Ooh. There we go. Thank you. Oh. Uh-oh. Hang on. Shit. There we go. You know that the game takes a bit of patience to learn how to play with. Ah, gotcha. Thank you for the input. Damn it. Damn. Alright, I really need a magic mirror. I can just boff home when I need to. Counter argument. Uh-oh. Fire's about to fire it up. Objection! Hang on. Hang on. Hang on. Yeah, y'all can't give me ideas on stream, because I will pause everything. The fuck? Oh, there it is. Un momento, por favor. I'm doing a thing. Oh, it'd help if I... Not AI mode, fuck you. Maybe? Oh. Maybe? What do you care? I love streaming. Oh, I did it wrong. Okay, let's see if that's better. Objection! There we go. Is it loud? I'm not sorry. Oh, well. It'll be good for everybody to get a job. Objection! Hell yeah. Does this look better? Hang on.
Oh yay! I'm a sacrifice!
That one. Better now. Okay. Yeah. Oh yay! I'm a sacrifice. I mean, hey, in Discord. Oh, wrong fucking thing. Wrong fucking thing. In Discord, I have a whole fucking thing where you can suggest things. Nope. So sorry, y'all. I'm not sorry at all. Oh yeah, I forgot to add on the. If you refresh your page, you'll see I rearranged the panels at the bottom. Oh shit, I forgot to do that. Objection. There's also the return of the Wobbuffet, and then there's going to be a new one. Under just that one. Okay. Un momento, por favor. Oh yeah, I gotta move that. Fuck. See, why do I get all of my inspiration while I'm on stream? Why is it always on stream? Okay, got you another one. The Deadly Premonition. Elephant trumpet song? No, I have not. Please explain. Oh god. Y'all can't hear it, but is that the thing muted? Copyright, just in case. What the fuck is that? Okay. Okay. Yes, of course you are. You should be able to. Also, I have a new one for you. Please do not. You can abuse it a little bit. Please do not like wah, 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 wah. It's bad I already regret it. Yep. I don't regret it.
Objection!
Not gonna lie. Oh my god, goobers. All of you. Alright, let's continue with our Stairway to Hell. I'm genuinely surprised that worked for both of them. Oh. That's just one. We're not gonna worry about that. Get some water. Oh, I see some. I see a damn! I got too excited. Already got that. For Mort.
Once we're over the wall, go for the males first. The children we can sell, and the women. Ah, the women. We will always treat with respect.
I fucking love Mort. Oh god. You know what's funny? I work with a Maurice and a Julian at my job. Like, legitimately, those are their names. And it didn't occur to me until the other day. I was like, oh! I have both of them at my job. Julian is a little on the cray-cray side. I love him, but he's a little... He's also a teen still, so, like, a little crazy. Starfeet. What the fuck was that? What the fuck is it? Topaz crawler? Oh, that continues for a while. Oh, I'm drowning. No big, guys. I'm just, you know, casually drowning. No big deal, guys. I did. And he fucking deserved it. You know what? We're gonna go back up. We have a whole lot of shit. Because it's our! Sorry, I kind of hate myself for saying it like that. Die, motherfucker, die, motherfucker, die! Well, didn't we just... Earlier, we just... Oh, nope. I know that. That's a sign of danger. Didn't we just have this discussion that I'm definitely not a murderer in every game that I play? Okay, what are we doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? We're going to go and do this. The fuck are you? I saw that. No, what is that? What is that? What is that? You can't run when you're backed into a corner. Okay, that takes 8. How many do we have? 12. So I can get one good thing with the silver. Oh, there's more! We have, like, no defense. We'll take this. Damn. Okay, I want to make a better sword. Wait till after the break! Dad! Wait! Yes, please do. Wait, do you not see an ad? Can you actually hear me? Because if so, that's fucking fun. What the fuck is that? That's kind of funny. How do I make? Okay, that's. Yeah, we'll wait. Just better make a better fucking sword. Can I make iron armor? Why can't I make copper stuff? Why I can't? I heard nothing. Yeah, it's just for you, just my special lady. Ooh. Alright, so you're gonna do it. Hang on. Yep, yeah, you're all out of ads. Oh, please, I didn't test it to make sure that it works. So hopefully it works. I can't remember what I did. I don't remember what I did. Hang on. Hang on. Oh. Points.
Ah! Fuck you.
I forgot about that. Because like people that are new to the channel, they're gonna think it's a lot of nothing. But it's all a lot of actual something. See what I'm saying? You know. Come up with a little something. Okay, you gonna do anything? Wait, really? That's funny. Well, that is the only... Oh my god. That's the only one I have, so... You know, behave. Damn. I'm gonna have to take all these down. Yeah, do that. You wanna know what I really want to do? Shit. There's a creator by the name of Leo Skrelly, I think his name is. He's on TikTok and he's super funny. He is a huge guy who is the epitome of what you would think Italian mafia man would look like, right? This man is gayer than a $4 bill. Like, he is so adorable. Motherfucker's like 6'7" too. Like, he's huge, right? I really want to get I don't think he does it, but I really want him to do like a cameo so that I can get him, because his thing that a lot of people recognize him with, I'm trying to think of the word, sorry. He'll start out his cause he'll just TikTok like kind of all day, just videos, and he'll go good morning and shit. And hang on, I have to show you now because I'm not conveying good enough on like what this man sounds and looks like. I love him.
I've been meaning to ask you.
Shut the fuck up. Yo. Skeppy. Excuse me, Leo Skeppy.
I just woke up from a goddamn fucking nightmare and you wanted
Wait,
to
hold up.
bitch.
No, shut the fuck up. I love you. Shut up. Okay, so hopefully you'll be able to see it well.
I got some really cool fucking PR, you wanna see?
How can I?
First is these two trucks. We're gonna get into them. But I wanna start with the painting. Picture painting. I don't know if it's a picture or a painting. But look how cool.
He's fucking like blowing out. I can't get it to like, but I really want like a cameo from him, just being like good morning and shit, or like some kind of like very Leo thing for like if someone follows or something, and just have it like welcome in and shit or something. I don't know. I want it really bad, but I don't think he does them. So a girl can hope. Maybe I can comment on his like TikTok and be like, hey, can I pay you to say something for me and I use it for my streams? I like you a lot. Cause the first time, what was it? What was the first thing I saw him in? Oh, that's what it was. Hang on, let me try to find it real quick. Fucking struggling. Hold on.
I'm gonna be vulnerable.
Okay, this is the first thing I ever saw him do, okay?
Be vulnerable with you. Don't fucking laugh at me. I'm stressed out. I can't figure out how to put my like I'm actually breaking sweat. I think they look
He's like,
alright. But like it's
but he's so fucking funny. He's so cute. I love him. He's a big old teddy bear. I could probably break your neck. Like, there's videos of him doing bouncer stuff. And this man, big motherfucker. But yeah, I really want him to do a cameo for me. Come on in and shit. And a lot of people will post it in his comment section. Oh, girl, shut up. My show's on. Talking about him. You got me, bitch. I wish I could beat somebody up. It is 1:23 here on the East Coast. Oop, you doxed yourself. Oh god, we know she's somewhere in the middle of the country. Oh god! I don't know why that surprises me every time. AM? Where the fuck do you live? I thought I had... Over there? Damn. Rest in peace having to live over there. Okay, I ain't got my glasses on. Over there. Over there. Over yon way? Well, yeah, it would be over here to you. That quick, I forgot what I came over here for. Ah! These little bitches. No, you don't have to do that. Oh, do you really? Nice. Okay, I'm gonna embarrass the shit out of myself for a minute. I did not know. Objection! Fucking scared me. Yeah, I didn't know that the Philippines were like Asia, right? Like under the Asia place. Yeah, I didn't know that. I thought Philippines were like. I thought they were like South American shit. The American system failed me. Damn it, that's not what I meant to do! Ow, bitch. You silly sausage. Oh. Well, it's good to know I'm not alone. Very nice, very nice. Yeah, I am over here in the Americas. Fuck off. Please. I'll fucking call you a sausage, bitch. Don't ask who I'm talking shit to, because I don't know. Oh, I gotta get up. Yeah. Go, my water children, go! What the fuck is that? Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. Uh-oh. Y'all, I think I just killed myself. Go, MK. In that big old noodle of yours. You're the goodest of the noodle club. Let me just see. Shit. Damn it. There we go. Damn. Oh. Cool. Cool pals. Love that for us. Let me just. I did have to get the most boring middle of the fucking road for this goddamn hell ladder. Like ever. Alright. I swear, I'm just hitting nothing. Ah, you ain't gonna catch me, gay thoughts. Rhea Ripley exists. They're gonna catch me. Oh. Can do that. Let me throw you, bitch. Oh, I about threw the damn. 1, 2, 3. Hello, goldfish. And go down. This hell thing's gonna grab me nuts. Can you please find a giant cavern? Oh. Oh my god, I hit 9 instead of 8. Only died twice, yeah. Literally. I would fail at every single one of them. Portal. Why would I want to subject myself to torture? You know? Where the fuck did I go? Oops. So apparently I do have a cheatsy doodle. But we're not going to use it unless we, like, really have to. Ah, shit, we're gonna die again. Oh, no. No, no, no. If someone is no longer friends with MK, it is not MK's fault. Some people just can't handle how cool she is. And self-destruct because of it. Oh, shit. Nobody saw that. Ah, shit. Yeah, we're just gonna... Nobody saw anything. Nobody saw anything. Ow, stop hitting me, you little shit. Hide. Scared. I don't want to be here no more. Everything's scary. Why does everything hurt? Sunflowers. I have, oh, it's not a Squirtle, but it's a emote. Totodile. I want waffle fries. Do you have to guess, like, their Pokedex or something? What's that? That would be cool. Oh, let's, like, be a total dickhead. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Pokedoll? What is that? I'm gonna look that up. Is it .net or .com? Because there's two that popped up. Yeah. Got this one, and then I got this one. Need to know. .net? Okay. Let's see. Hey, let me get. Oh my god. Let me get to where I can see my chat real quick. We'll play. We'll do it live. Okay. Let's see. Ooh. Let's do a description. Professionalism. Its DNA is said to contain the genetic codes of all Pokemon, so it can use all kinds of techniques. I was thinking Didio? Jesus. Ditto? But honestly, Mewtwo was the second one I thought. What do you guys think? No cheating! Of all Pokemon. So it's either Ditto or, Mewtwo, right? That's the first one I thought of. So let's go. No! Let me see. Oh my god. Surely it can't be, oh my god. What's the one that it was made by people? I'm totally blanking at the name. It's the one in the first games where you could only get it through the, the, yeah. Yes, thank you! No? Oh my god. Hang on, I gotta add a chat. Hang on. To contain, his DNA is said to contain the genetic codes of all Pokemon. That's who I thought. Damn it. Oh, it's only like once a day? That's stupid. Let's do Silhouette. That's first generation, right? Oh, that's fair. Oh. No? Oh, yeah, it is! Okay. Yeah, let's do a classic. Okay, oh, that's fucking cool. Okay, so it's not a fire. It doesn't... Okay. It doesn't have a secondary type. So it is so it's not fire. Oh, it does. What? So it's purple. It's not bug or fire. So it's a purple water type is... Oh, so it's the second evolution. Damn! I know it. Oh no! Oh shit. I thought that was poison. Yeah, it's a purple poison type. That's the second evolution. Oh, hey! Oh, wait, no, it's not. Is it really not? Okay, so it's, what was it? Wheezing? Yay, it's wheezing! Okay, let's do it with the blurry card. That is, haha! Love that. Oh, shit. Yeah, we're gonna add something real quick. Hang on a second. I'm gonna mix something real quick. Because I really like that. Where is it? Nope, that's not it. Yep. Okay, y'all should be able... Let's do another one, because this shit's fun as fuck. Let's go to just chatting, hang on. We'll go back to, we'll go back to that. That's really fun. Thank you, Fiery. Let's do fucking Naruto, because that's the only one I know more of. Okay, let's start with the eyes. Oh, shit. I have no idea who that is. The brown-haired person. Is this a notable person? The data is up until the end of Naruto Shippuden. Oh, I have no idea. I don't fucking know. I don't even know. Yesterday was fucking Naruto, really? No. I don't know character names like that. Damn. Oh, yeah. I know! Maybe over my head. Let's do the classic. Alright, let's do... Sasuke. Okay, he's male. What do you mean partial? Prologue. The guy from the prologue. Damn! Damn it! That's right. He doesn't do any jutsu, so he's not a ninja. Who's the... His name is... Is it this guy? Oh, that's so fucking funny. Oh my god. Okay, let's do jutsu. Fuck it. Is that not the Rasengan? Oh, whose character performs the jutsu, my bad. That's the... That's Naruto, is it not? Yeah, literally. Oh wait, is that like one of the wood jutsus or something? What's his name? Hashirama. How is that not? Hang on. They're capturing something, right? Chris, where you at? Right, literally. This is the end of Naruto Shippuden. I can literally hear Chris laughing, so no. Yeah, this is end of Shippuden. That's really gonna bother me. Because obviously they're capturing something, so like... But if it's the end of Shippuden, why are they here? Oh, Kiba. Oh! So is it an enemy? Is it maybe Nope. Can't even tell. Oh, there's more stuff there. That's gonna bother me. Sorry, try Kakashi. Me neither, I can't even tell. Let's just say Kurama. Fuck it. No? What's his name that, does the sand? What's his name? Suddenly, I've just forgotten everybody's names. Let's fucking go, Itachi or something. I don't fucking know. No, but that's a good try. Oh! Wait, there's a person there. Is that not... Who was that? Yeah, it's not Gar. Now I know that. Who have I already guessed? Oh, I swear to fucking God. Okay, it's not Sasuke. What the fuck? Who's the lady with the long hair? The titties out all the time. No. But that's another one. I'm struggling. I really don't know. Look at what we started with and look what we have now. They're on water. Choji. That would have been fucking funny. I wish I had the give up button. I'm trying to see who they're hitting. I don't even know what that is. Oh shit. Could be A? The dog that you were saying? Oh. His name literally is A? Oh, what if it's... I don't know. I see a... no. I thought I saw a CH. I don't think that's lightning. That looks like, what is it called? They're like, chakra or something. You know what I mean? Grenai? Oh? Are we just gonna go through everybody's fucking name? Oh, there we go. But she kind of looks blonde here, does she not? Or I don't even know if it's a she, to be honest with you. Every single one of them? Okay. Oh. I did. Cause he's only as... Bro, this is gonna piss me. I don't think it gets any clearer than this. Cause that was one of my first guesses was Obito, but he was... Oh yeah, I did go Obito, my bad. Cause I was thinking every cage. Yeah. I already checked The old guy. Oh, I thought oh yeah, I already did Onoki. I don't fucking know names. Who's might die? Yeah, I have zero fucking clue too. Who the fuck? Who's might die? Dewey. That's who I was thinking of. Her. But obviously I'm wrong. No, there's not. But you know what? We'll go through every fucking person. Because it's not. I don't know. I have no fucking good. Oh. I don't fucking know. I've not watched every fucking episode. Literally. I guess we don't know this as much as we thought. Because it's a water thing and there's a battle. Somebody's holding somebody behind them. Look, right here. Fuck me, man. I'm literally just gonna go through each one. Ah! It's Dari! Who? I don't even know who the fuck that is! Number of tries 49! Shit! If you can't defeat me with your real power, that means you're even below me who's already dead, right? Fools. If that's so, how are you ever going to defeat the enemy's boss? So somebody who's dead that's been resurrected is someone who's sassy. Oh, really? Okay, that makes sense. So somebody that's dead, somebody's sassy. Of course, yesterday was Sasuke's. Nagato? No. Cage? Oh, that's a good thing. Where are the cages that are dead? I don't know. A Mizukage. Oh, they're not gonna go by that. That one? That guy? Is that his name? Personal summoner that says second Mizukage. Hozuki. How did you do that? How did you do that? That's crazy! Oh my god! Oh, you know what? You know what we should do though? That was amazing. That was genuinely amazing. I think with this one we're gonna do... I think we're gonna do the cat's chat for this one. So that you guys can see that a little bit better. That was cray-cray! Oh really? I didn't know that. That's fucking wild that you fucking got that. Oh. That was, my tummy. Oh, that is wild. Okay, let's go back to trying to figure out who the fuck's eye this is. I don't... No. I'm literally just going to see the options because... End of Naruto Shippuden. White guy. It's not gonna be an Uchiha. Right? No, okay. I wanna say it's a girl. It's not, you know. It's not Fugaku. Nope. I'm literally just going through the names and like who does it kind of look like? It does look like someone from the exams. Someone got brown hair. Not Ren. Nope. You see my method? The method to my madness? That is not Hashirama, because I've... Oh! Hey! Yeah! That makes sense. That was a really bad picture of him, too. Alright. Let's see. What other ones do they have? So, is it just these? I don't know shit about One Piece, but this would be fun just to fuck around with. Oh, never mind. Yeah. There's only one laugh I will actually get out of this, so we're gonna just try it just to be funny. Oh. Yeah. Oh, that is a hell of a fucking laugh. What in the fuck? Yeah. That sounds like a crocodile or something. Buggy? Dory or Broggy? Okay. Fucking what? Fiery! You need, I was gonna say you need a hobby, but like, bitch. You're a monster! Oh my god, I can see that! Jesus! Okay, we're just, you know what? Okay, wanted. Oh, that's fucking, what is his name? Ace? Right? No? Okay, never mind, maybe not. I thought that was. Okay. Alright, come on, Fire, this is all you. This is all you. That's Naruto. I almost guessed it. Shanks! Yep. That's who I was thinking it was, but I couldn't, I don't know the show well enough. Are you gonna show me the fucking, oh, there we go. Nice. Okay, devil fruit. Which character ate this devil fruit? Doku Numi. That Doku is heart something. No, come on, Fire. If you don't know, we sure as shit don't know. Come on, man. Hatsune Miku. Jesus fucking Christ. Quick brain blasting. Brain blast! Oh shit. How the fuck? Doku is like poison, I think. So someone that does poison. Well, you know what is better than? Oh no, I don't have it. Hang on, hang on. Y'all can't see this. Y'all can't see this. Okay. Oh wait, that's not gonna work anyway. Y'all can see that. Magellan? That's fucking crazy, bro. Okay, give me 2 seconds. We're not. I want to do something and you guys can't know about it. So hang on a second. That's fucking crazy. Crazy work, bro. Crazy. What the fuck am I trying to do? I don't even remember anymore. That is very incredible. What am I trying to do? Mix it up. Do I really not have a mix it up? Thought I did. Can't do that. Am I blown out like hell? Yes, I am. Jesus Christ. No, it's literally. Oh my god. I'm trying to find. There's oh. There we go. Bitch, I know you fucking joking. Fuck you. Okay, whatever. We're doing this. Scared me. No. Fuck you. Not you. I'll make this a little bit better later. Sorry. What was the other one? Okay. All right. Are you ready?
Wow, about that.
I don't have the thing! God damn it! I forgot about that shit. Y'all. Ignore me. Oh, damn it! Wrong fucking one. Nobody sees any of this. Nobody sees. Okay.
Wow, about that.
There we go. Alright. Alright. Last one. Classic.
Objection!
My favorite character. Hello? Oh shit. Damn. Don't know. No. Okay, so it's not him. What's his name? Oh, he is part of the oh. Fiery. Shanks? Okay. What the fuck does that mean? Oh. I'm literally just guessing. First appearance clue. That does so much for me. We should do this next time I stream too. Because I will probably stream late on Saturday. I have the whole day off, but I'm going to a birthday party. Or maybe I'll stream earlier. You'll see in Discord. Greg. No. I don't know. I'm literally just typing random shit. Start. Dude, you were really fucking close. That's the closest we've gotten so far. Well, has no devil fruit, whatever the fuck that hockey is. Has no bounty. Has no devil fruit. No bounty. Has all 3 hockey. No devil fruit. Male. Grand Line is where his origin is. So whatever the fuck these blue. And if it... Yeah, no devil fruit. Not a Marines, not a Krieg, not a Whitebeard, not Black Cats, not Kid Pirates, not Straw Hat, not Red Hair. So whoever the fuck he's affiliated with is like... God. We're all waiting on fire for this one. Police. Oh wait, that's a girl. Shit. Labo? Nope. Oh wait, he's Straw Hat. I knew that. I'm just randomly fucking guessing at this point. Until you give me names. Don Quixote. I love Usopp. I'm literally just trying to get more, like, clues. His bounty is $100. That's fucking hilarious. Oh, so we got more Grand Line. Whatever that means. Yamato. That's a girl. From Wendell County Country Arc. Oh, I mean, hey. Odin? Hey! Good job. Oh, shit. Let's do Smash. Good job. Oh, shit. Let's do Silhouette. I don't know. What it says last posted bounty. So... Oh, that's the fucking Pokemon. Yeah, I forgot his name. It's the fucking tiger one. Oh, Incinerador. Incineroar. There we go. That is a motherfucking Pokemon. Alright, where's the other one? Oh. Classic. Link. Oh, so he's not human. Oh. Bowser. Oh, not oh damn. Not male. Who's not human? Pac-Man. No. Shorter than 135, taller than 95. No, because it's not from the Mario. Who's that one? From Start? That Fox or something? Aye. So shorter than 106, taller than 95. So somebody has to be like 100. So how tall is it? So I wonder if it's no, because it would be the rest. Mega Man? Oh, what about Meta Knight? No. I don't know heights, so I'm just guessing. Oh. Oh. Oh, so recent. Who's been recent? Wait, what do you mean? Yeah, it's a character. It's just the gender has to be Salt. What the fuck is Salt? No, not Fire Emblem. Not Berry King. No. Wait, is Kong? He's not part of... Okay, so he's done. Okay. He's not a monkey. His species is Kong. Oh, a Chrono Trigger. I don't know names. You have to give me names. Shulk? Nope. I wish we could just type, like... Oh, he's not human! Okay, yeah, that's right. That was like one of the first clues we saw, and then we're still... And then recent. What is this? Who is that from Metroid? Chris would know. Oh, what about the Squid Kids? Oh. Because, like, there's a Squid Kid here. You got the salt? What salt? What are you talking about, baby? Okay, here's a silhouette clue. You ready? No! Okay, here. That's my... Something something staff. That helps me none. Maybe it'd help you guys. Yeah, Ridley is, Metroid. Okay, let's do the silhouette, because I don't know. Oh! Icarus! Oh. kid? Is it then? Is that not? Yep. I think so. Yep. Oh, he's from Kid Icarus. Okay. I never even played the game, but okay. Guess what the Final Smash animation? Ice? Is that not Ice Climbers? Who did Kirby swallow? Yo. Who did Kirby swallow? Y'all, I don't know. Who the fuck knows? It could be anybody. I mean, like, is it one of the Pokemon? Like, we don't know. Yeah, it's clearly Kirby. Alright. What? Double Kirby. Meta Knight? I'm feeling really stupid right now. Oh, is it this guy? Was it that guy? Is his name Ryu? Okay, yeah. No. Is it Falcon? No? I'm tripping. Fuck. Kazuya? Oh, so it was from whatever the fuck. Yeah, we're not doing these two because we're not like that. Well, this was fun. Is there another like Wordle type thing? Because if so, I'm so down to do more of these. Like even right now. If so, comment them. I gotta use the bathroom real quick. And I also gotta take this fucking thing off. So y'all hang out for a minute. I'm gonna go potty. And then we'll be right back. And I'll probably play more Terraria. Unless y'all can come up with another, Wordle type. Oh no, do you have to go? Ah, no worries. It is also like 2:30 a.m. for you. We love you very much. Thank you for hanging out. Everybody else, hang on a minute, and I'll be right back. I will see you later. It's a level 30. I'm just gonna... What the fuck? You okay? Hello? Well, now I'm gonna feel bad. Ah! Ah! I no longer feel bad. No longer feel bad. No.
Horrified looks from everyone in the room.
Autopilot. Autopilot, there's a moon, there's a sun there. There's a sun there. Stop it. Oh, fuck. Autopilot just fucking killed me.
Shelby, hit examine.
Alright.
All
I'm
players
gonna
must agree to enter this realm.
I hate
Oh.
gas. Oh, look, it's a voting system.
And my game crashed.
Christopher, that is not funny.
My game crashed.
Well, Shelby, you ready for this?
No!
My
We're
game
not
literally.
moving.
Come on.
This is a throwback to fucking Warframe.
Come on, buddy. Come on, Shelby. We got this. Man, give me some bolts, too, because, you know.
Goddamn, what am I, you damn pimp daddy?
You give me a crossbow with no ammo, like, how am I supposed to use it?
Beat him with it.
Excellent.
Now it's gonna make me dizzy. Oh shit.
Ow. Don't worry. I'm a master. Ow. I got this. Don't worry about it.
What's wrong, brother? You have a performance issues?
Nick!
Told you, I had it.
Uh-huh.
What the fuck? I testing an extremely powerful Rattle Market. Did I really just say Rattle Market? Rattle Market. Shit. Ooh, a farm. Ooh. A super mutant farm. Let's run away.
I was waiting on that. And I would be behind you.
Yep. Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh shit! Nope.
Oh yeah!
Nope.
So cute too.
I'm gonna go to the other side of Grace. Didn't mean to do that, but alright.
What else, Shadow Grace? And never mind, use it done. What'd you do?
The fuck was that? Why was it so? Ah! Fuck! Ah!
I'm literally just going down little. I was gonna go. I'm dead. Bleh! Well, he's not very nice. And they won.
Yay! Damn, I've leveled up. What the fuck am I? Good thing I'm not trying to talk to you. I leveled up. Jesus.
Man, give me some bolts, too, because, you know.
Goddamn, what am I, you damn pimp daddy?
You give me a crossbow with no ammo, like, how am I supposed to use it?
Beat him with it.
I don't trust this.
A treasure chest.
Oh no!
It's broken.
Oh no!
A few moments later.
Booth said, "Oh, you found that Keck W," which is like a laughing emoji, and said, "Welcome to Ohio." Ah! What the fuck was that?
Don't worry about it. I got it.
I'm in danger!
A few moments later.
God damn it! Well, hi. What are the lights? No, bro, I'm literally right here. It's a level 30. I'm just gonna... What the fuck? You okay? Hello? Well, now I'm gonna feel bad. Ah! Ah! I no longer feel bad. No longer feel bad. No.
Horrified looks from everyone in the room.
Autopilot. Autopilot, there's a moon. There's a sun there. There's a sun there. Stop it. Oh, fuck. Autopilot just fucking killed me.
Shelby hit examine.
Alright.
All
I'm
players
gonna
must agree to enter this realm.
I hate guess. Oh, look, it's a voting system.
And my game crashed.
Christopher, that is not funny.
My game crashed.
Well, Shelby,
Okay,
you ready for
we're
this?
back. No! I changed. Yeah. That was a lot of fun. I really want to do more of those nerd wordles. We'll find more. We will definitely find more. Kind of push you down a little bit. Yeah, we're gonna play more, Terraria. Gotcha. Alright. Should be better. All right. Oh yeah, I forgot I like backed out. I knew that. I do that. Alright, but that's still there? Okay. Fucking the tennas. They kinda get everywhere. Yeah. Cause I got cold and I didn't feel like wearing that hoodie anymore. Let's see. Am I dying? Why am I got one? Oh, it's always making stuff? That's cool. Where's my... Hey, where's my bird? Where the fuck is my bird? Okay, I don't need... Keep that one. Because when I do this, it's going to try to take them all away. Oh yeah, I forgot I gotta turn this off. Except for you. Keep that to. Alright. So I want. We got. Oh, we don't even. Oh yeah, we got that big boy map. All right, I want to go back here. Oh. Oh. Oh shit! I didn't summon it. Yeah. Let's kill you, bitch. You ice climber wannabe. Ow, that just took an entire, all of my edited health from the thing. That's not good. I want nothing to do with you. I have so much. How did that not? Oh, that's water. Definitely knew that. I'd definitely be dead. Oh, that's not a pie, that's a bomb. From a bomb factory. Ooh. I'll take you. Heart. 2 hearts. Queen. Three of them? Oh yeah. Okay, more iron. Ow. Ice machine. Silver. Oh my god, a snowball cannon. What the fuck are you? Oh, rubies. Cool. That's... Ow. That hurt just. I have no idea where we're going, by the way. Can I just make... Why can I not make... torches? Just want to make torches. Let me hit... Oh. Oh, fuck yeah. Fuck yeah and fuck you. Hell yeah. Oh. Ow! You little hoe. Something down there. What is that? Is that silt or something? Flush. Hey, 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 let me get that. What? Definitely not chicken at all. That was really fucking rude. Fuck you. Piss me off. Oh. I know you. Papyrus Undertale. Stay away from the spiders. They'll suck you out your insides and leave you a hollow shelled man. Trust me on this one. Ooh. Well, that's expensive. I don't know how. Do I have to eat them? Yeah. I have lots of health. Where? I'm sick of not having any kind of light that's worth the shit. Because I do believe that was my last one. Or not. Who are you? What the fuck is that? We're not. We're gonna skedaddle on home. Hell yeah. I'd say it's a pretty good deal that we got. Yeah. We're gonna save. Alright. Excuse me. Let's see. Alright. I think I'm gonna be about done for the day. I'm a little on the winding down for a little bit, so we are just gonna go raid somebody. I don't know who we're gonna raid. I think I know who we're gonna go raid. Peter. So. Oh. My shit just messed up. Eh, love that. We're gonna go raid Angie. She is our favorite and one of our good friends. Face Angie. She is a VTuber and we love her a lot. So we're gonna go raid her and say hello to her. Oh no, bless your heart. But yeah, we'll probably stream on Saturday. Just keep an eye out for the stream info in the Discord. But love you guys a lot. I hope you guys have a wonderful day and I'll catch you later. Peace.